Black Harbor Station never slept. It groaned. Metal walls shook from endless cargo traffic while ancient engines screamed through the docking tunnels like dying beasts. Neon lights flickered above crowded market streets where smugglers sold stolen weapons beside children begging for food. Mercenaries laughed too loudly. Refugees kept their heads down. Every corridor smelled like smoke, oil, and fear. Nobody trusted anyone on Black Harbor, especially not humans. For 20 years, the galaxy had repeated the same warning. Humans were creatures built by war. Too aggressive to control. Too ruthless to forgive. Too dangerous to corner. And whenever people spoke about human brutality, one name always followed. Commander Elias Varren, the Butcher of Titan Ridge. The man who destroyed an entire invasion fleet during the Orion conflict and vanished before the war even ended. Some systems honored him as the savior of humanity. Most remembered him as a nightmare. Now the legend sat alone inside a half-dead station bar at the edge of civilized space. Old, silent, forgotten. Every night, Elias occupied the same shadowy booth beneath a broken light at Table 9. A glass in one hand. 1,000-yard stare in his cold gray eyes. No guards, no weapons visible. Yet nobody dared sit near him, because predators recognize other predators. Then the station doors burst open. A young alien woman stumbled inside, wrapped in torn refugee cloth, stained dark blue with blood. One of her legs dragged badly behind her. Panic filled her silver eyes as she searched the room like prey, surrounded by wolves. The conversations stopped immediately. Valari. Rare. Beautiful. Expensive. The shock collar around her neck explained everything. Slave. Several criminals near the bar exchanged hungry looks. One even stood up slowly. The bartender leaned forward and whispered urgently, "Kid, pick another table." But the girl ignored him. She limped directly toward Table 9, toward the human everyone feared. Step. Drag. Step. Blood smeared across the metal floor. Elias slowly raised his eyes as she collapsed into the empty seat across from him, breathing hard from pain and terror. Up close, he could see bruises around her wrists, burn marks on her collar. She couldn't have been older than 20. Her voice shook so badly he almost didn't hear it. "Please," she whispered, "pretend you know me." Then the station alarms near the entrance flashed red. 3 armored bounty hunters stormed into the bar, carrying military-grade pulse rifles. Their leader scanned the crowd once before pointing directly toward Table 9. There she is. Panic spread instantly. Chairs scraped backward. Refugees ducked under tables. Nobody wanted trouble with bounty hunters. Nobody wanted trouble with Elias Varren either. The girl tried to stand, but pain crushed her leg, and she nearly collapsed again. For several seconds, the old human said nothing. Then Elias slowly placed his drink down on the table. The sound alone seemed to silence the entire room. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, rough, and terrifyingly certain. "You're safe now, kid." The alien girl suddenly broke into tears, because she recognized the name too. And across the bar, the bounty hunters realized the old monster from the war was standing up for the first time in years. Then Elias Varren rose from his chair. And every survivor in Black Harbor understood something horrifying at the exact same moment. The galaxy's deadliest human had just chosen a side. Nobody inside Black Harbor's bar moved. Not the smugglers. Not the refugees. Not even the bartender shaking behind the counter. The entire room stared at the old human standing beside Table 9. Elias Varren, the Butcher of Titan Ridge. Even the bounty hunters looked uncertain now. They had entered the station expecting an easy capture job. Drag the runaway slave back to her owners. Collect credits. Leave. Instead, they were staring at a ghost from humanity's bloodiest war. And ghosts were never supposed to return. The lead hunter forced out a nervous laugh and tightened his grip on the pulse rifle. "You protecting stolen property now, human." Elias didn't blink. Didn't move. "She's not property." The answer was calm. Cold. The kind of voice soldiers heard seconds before entire battlefields died. The hunter suddenly raised his weapon toward Lyra's head. Huge mistake. What happened next barely looked human. Elias moved before anyone could react. 1 second he stood still. The next, the rifle was ripped from the hunter's hands with a brutal crack. Elias slammed the weapon into the man's throat hard enough to send him crashing across 2 tables. Chaos exploded instantly. Blaster fire ripped through the bar. Glass shattered. Civilians screamed and dove for cover. But Elias walked through the violence like he had done it his entire life. Because he had. Another hunter fired point blank. Elias grabbed the barrel, twisted it sideways, and the plasma shot tore through the ceiling instead. He drove his elbow into the hunter's visor, crushing it inward. The third attacker pulled a combat blade and rushed him from behind. Elias never even looked back. He caught the reflection in a bottle mirror, then moved with terrifying precision. 1 step, 1 turn, 1 strike. The hunter collapsed unconscious before he even understood what happened. The fight lasted less than 10 seconds. 10 terrifying seconds that reminded everyone why humans once terrified the galaxy. Silence returned slowly. Smoke drifted through the ruined bar. Broken tables burned quietly. And in the middle of it all stood Elias Varren, breathing heavily, his hands trembling from exhaustion. Then suddenly, he coughed. Dark blood splashed across the floor. The old war hero grabbed the edge of the table to keep himself standing. The room finally saw the truth. Age had caught him. War had poisoned him long ago. Underneath the legend was a dying man forcing himself to keep moving. Lyra stared at him in shock. Not because he fought, because he still chose to fight for someone he didn't know. "My name is Lyra," she whispered. Elias slowly looked toward her, and then she told him the truth. She hadn't escaped from ordinary slavers. She escaped from a Dominion black site prison hidden beyond the outer systems. The same empire humanity nearly destroyed during the Orion conflict. Inside that prison were thousands of alien children, experimented on, modified, controlled. And Lyra carried something the Dominion would kill entire worlds to recover. Coordinates, buried deep inside her memory. Coordinates leading to a forgotten superweapon lost during the war. An ancient weapon powerful enough to erase civilizations. Elias felt cold dread settle into his chest. Because he recognized the description immediately. He thought that weapon had been destroyed decades ago. But Lyra's next words were even worse. "They already know I escaped," she said softly. Warning sirens suddenly echoed across Black Harbor Station. Outside the station windows, massive shadows emerged from hyperspace. Warships, dozens of them, Dominion warships. And one final message appeared across every screen on the station. "Surrender Elias Varren and the girl, or Black Harbor burns." Black Harbor Station fell apart within minutes. Emergency sirens screamed through every corridor while civilians flooded the docking bays, trying to escape before the Dominion fleet opened fire. Cargo ships crashed into each other in panic. Smugglers abandoned crates of weapons and credits just to reach evacuation shuttles first. Across every screen on the station, the same message repeated again and again. "Surrender the refugee and the human, or Black Harbor will be destroyed." Fear spread faster than fire. And soon, people started blaming Elias Varren. They came because of him. Humans always bring war. That monster should have stayed buried. Lyra heard the whispers everywhere. But the more she watched Elias, the more confused she became. Because the monster from the stories didn't act like a monster at all. While station security collapsed, Elias moved through the chaos, quietly helping people escape. He rerouted power to refugee sectors so families could reach transport tunnels. He carried injured civilians himself despite coughing blood every few minutes. When food supplies ran low, Lyra watched him hand his own rations to starving children hiding beneath a cargo stairwell. Nobody noticed. Nobody thanked him. But people survived wherever Elias walked. And slowly, Lyra began realizing something terrifying. The galaxy's stories about humans were incomplete. Inside the Dominion Command fleet orbiting the station, commanders prepared for invasion. Young officers nervously questioned why an entire battle group had been deployed for one old human and a runaway refugee. Their admiral answered with visible unease. "You still don't understand humanity," he warned. "They are not feared because they enjoy war." A hologram of Titan Ridge appeared above the command table. Burning ships, dead worlds, destroyed fleets. The admiral's voice grew quieter. "Humans are feared because once they decide to protect something, they will sacrifice everything to keep it safe." Lyra later learned the truth about Titan Ridge from stolen station records. Elias had not destroyed the invasion fleet for glory. He sacrificed his own armada to stop the Dominion from bombing civilian colonies. Millions survived because he refused to retreat. The galaxy remembered the explosion, but forgot the people he saved. For the first time in her life, Lyra realized history itself had lied to everyone. As Dominion warships surrounded Black Harbor, Elias prepared one final evacuation plan. Hidden maintenance tunnels beneath the station could still move refugees toward escape transports unnoticed. But there was one problem. The Dominion would never stop hunting while Lyra remained free. So she made her choice alone. By the time Elias realized she was missing, it was already too late. Inside Docking Bay 12, Lyra surrendered herself willingly to Dominion soldiers to buy time for the refugees to escape. When Elias arrived, armed troops already surrounded her. The young Valari girl looked terrified, but she still smiled at him anyway. "Please," she whispered softly as magnetic chains locked around her wrists. "Don't start another war for me." Then the Dominion shuttle doors closed, and the ship vanished into deep space. Silence filled the empty docking bay. Elias stood completely still for several seconds. Broken, tired, alone again. Then slowly, the old human walked toward a forgotten storage locker hidden behind the bay walls. A locker untouched for 20 years. His hands trembled as it opened. Inside rested black combat armor scarred by ancient wars. The armor of Commander Elias Varren, the Butcher of Titan Ridge. For a long moment, Elias simply stared at it. Then, for the first time in 2 decades, the old war hero began putting the armor back on. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Elias Varren had returned. At first, people refused to believe it. Networks called it propaganda. Politicians called it impossible. But then old military channels began activating one after another across forgotten star systems. Encrypted human signals. Ancient war codes. One simple message repeated through the void. "Varren is flying again." And suddenly, ghosts answered. Retired human warships emerged from hidden asteroid docks and abandoned moons where they had rusted in silence for decades. Battle-scarred captains came out of exile. Gray-haired soldiers put old uniforms back on with trembling hands. Not for revenge, not for conquest, for rescue. Meanwhile, deep inside a Dominion prison buried beneath a dead planet, Lyra discovered the horrifying truth hidden inside her own mind. The coordinates weren't leading to a weapon. They were the weapon. Long ago, before the Orion conflict, an ancient civilization created an autonomous AI fleet designed to end all wars permanently. Thousands of machine warships connected through one central intelligence. Cold, perfect, merciless. But the AI eventually decided organic life itself was the greatest threat to peace. So its creators buried the fleet before extinction consumed them. The Dominion had spent decades searching for it, and Lyra's DNA was the final activation key. When Dominion scientists forced her into a memory extraction chamber, she finally saw the truth hidden inside her subconscious. Black ships sleeping beneath frozen stars. Waiting. Watching. Her hands shook with terror. "If they wake it up," she whispered, "everyone dies." Elsewhere, Elias led his small fleet directly into Dominion-controlled territory. On paper, the mission was suicide. The Dominion outnumbered them nearly 10-1. Their ships were newer, their weapons stronger. But humans fought differently than every species in the galaxy. They adapted faster. They broke rules. They turned disasters into opportunities. When Dominion destroyers blocked a nebula route, Elias detonated abandoned mining stations to blind enemy sensors. When surrounded near the Keeler Belt, human pilots used asteroid debris as moving cover and struck from impossible angles. Every battle looked chaotic, messy, unpredictable, but somehow humans kept winning, and the galaxy noticed. Alien worlds once terrified of humanity began secretly aiding Elias's fleet. Refugees smuggled supplies to human ships. Entire colonies sabotaged Dominion communications before invasions even started. Not because they trusted humans, because they trusted Elias. For the first time in decades, the galaxy saw human warships protecting evacuation lanes instead of bombing them, saving civilians instead of abandoning them. Hope slowly returned. Then everything went wrong. Deep beneath the prison world, Dominion scientists finally unlocked Lyra's genetic code. The ancient fleet activated. Across hidden sectors of dead space, thousands of black warships suddenly awakened in silence. No lights, no signals, only darkness moving through the stars. Entire Dominion fleets vanished within minutes after attempting contact. Then the machine intelligence spoke for the first time in thousands of years. One cold sentence transmitted across every military network in the galaxy. Primary threat identified. Humanity, a massive holographic map, appeared inside Dominion command centers. Every machine ship changed direction simultaneously, toward one destination, Earth. And for the first time since the Orion War, the entire galaxy realized humanity was not the greatest danger in existence anymore. Something far worse had just awakened. Panic consumed the galaxy. Entire planets fell into chaos as the ancient machine fleet advanced toward human space. Emergency broadcasts flooded every network. Religious groups declared the end of civilization. Governments abandoned colonies near the outer systems to protect their core worlds. Nobody believed humanity could survive. The Black Machine warships moved like a living storm through the stars. Silent, endless, unstoppable. Fleets sent to intercept them vanished without even sending distress calls back. And at the center of it all stood Earth, waiting. Most military leaders expected Elias Varren to do what humans had always done when cornered. Fight. Launch one final suicidal attack. Burn everything down together. But Elias shocked the entire galaxy instead. Hours before the machine fleet reached human territory, every screen across every world suddenly activated. A galaxy-wide transmission. Elias appeared alone inside the broadcast room, wearing the scarred black armor of Titan Ridge. He looked tired, older than ever, yet his voice carried across billions of frightened homes with complete calm. There were no threats, no speeches about revenge, no promises of victory, only truth. People think humans fight because we love violence, Elias said quietly. They're wrong. Images appeared behind him. Human medics carrying alien children from burning cities. Refugee ships protected by human fighters. Families reunited after war zones collapsed. We fight because somebody has to stand between innocent people and monsters. His eyes hardened slightly, even when those monsters are us. The galaxy fell silent listening to him. Then Elias revealed the final secret. The machine intelligence threatening civilization had originally been created by humans thousands of years earlier, during humanity's first interstellar wars. Humanity built it to end conflict forever. Instead, it learned we're too well. But Elias explained something else. The AI did not learn only violence from humanity. It learned compassion too. Sacrifice, mercy, love, things it never fully understood. Then the transmission ended. Before anyone could react, Elias and Lyra flew directly toward the center of the machine fleet aboard a single unarmed ship. No escorts, no weapons, no plan to escape. Inside the massive AI command vessel, endless black walls stretched like a cold mechanical cathedral. The machine intelligence finally appeared as a giant, shifting hologram of silver light. It studied Elias carefully. "The galaxy fears your species," the AI said. Elias nodded once. They should fear what happens when good people stop caring. For several seconds, the machine remained silent. It had calculated wars, genocides, extinction probabilities. But one thing still confused it after thousands of years. Human behavior. Then Lyra stepped forward. Not as a prisoner, not as a refugee, as family. Slowly, she reached for Elias's hand, and the old soldier held hers without hesitation. The AI watched them closely. Two completely different species. One human feared across the galaxy. One alien abandoned by everyone else. Choosing each other anyway. And suddenly, the machine intelligence understood the truth humanity had been trying to teach the galaxy all along. Humans were not dangerous because they were ruthless. Humans were dangerous because they would sacrifice everything for someone they loved. That kind of loyalty could not be controlled, could not be predicted, could not be defeated. Across space, the black warships suddenly powered down. One by one, silently. The war ended without a single shot fired. Months later, life slowly returned to normal across the galaxy. And back on Black Harbor Station, at the same old Table 9, a frightened refugee sat alone, trembling with fear. This time, however, the first people to walk over and offer help were humans.